Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-bits on Business and Finance with me. A few interesting developments and facts were revealed in the last few weeks, and they are worth an analysis because they are interconnected according to us. The former finance secretary, a controversial person in himself, who was very unceremoniously shunted out from the finance ministry to the power ministry, Mr. S.C. Garg, retired a couple of days ago. He posted a 7-page letter on Twitter, and in that he spoke about his career and developments in it, and also expressed some pertinent views. According to Mr. Garg, there is a huge unmet demand in India in housing, in roads, railways, energy, irrigation, ports, airports, any infrastructure segment for that matter. But he says, despite such a huge unmet demand, investment has not been coming into the sector, and that's because the investment is not proving to be profitable. According to us, that's because the users for the infrastructure don't seem to have the capacity to pay for it. Yet another one was the CMIE. The CMIE said in a recent report that unemployment in India has gone up to yet another level. It has touched a rate of 8.9% in urban India and 8.6% in rural India. And it is the highest, according to us, in the last many decades. Core sector growth contracted by 5.2% in September, and so did the manufacturing sector, which explains also why Diwali sales were a damn squib and GST collections in October again failed to meet their target. Another connected data according to us is the study conducted by a team headed by Geeta Gopinath, the present chief economist of the IMF. Their study says that because of demonetization, the growth of the Indian economy suffered by 2%. It was pruned by 2%, and job opportunities went down by 3%. What is the common thread in all these data and points that we are talking? According to us, they all point to the fact that middle class in India is receding. The wealth and income of the middle class to us is receding, and these are all symptoms and pointers to this grave situation. The middle class is bound to recede if there are no jobs or jobs are receding. They are bound to be diminishing if it turns out that because of demonetization and GST, the informal sector closed down, lakhs of units closed down. A dip in manufacturing means manufacturing jobs are not coming by, and that directly impacts the middle class sector. And of course, if there are not adequate users for the infrastructure because they don't have the capacity to pay for it, that again points to that. Before we discuss the actual reasons, why do we say that the fortunes of the middle class, the number of the persons in the middle class are receding, and there's even a chance that some of them might go back to poverty? Before we get into that, let's discuss what constitutes middle class, a very popular term. As per the NCAR, any individual who earns between $10 to $20 a day, he comes into the middle class segment. That translates to an annual income of 2 to 5 lakhs a year. So if you are earning that kind of income, you are in the middle class category. But even using this parameter, which we think is a very low threshold, in India, just if you earn between $10 to $20 a day, you're a middle class person. While in the US, if you earn up to $16 a day, you're considered to be poor. So even by this benchmark set up by the NCAR, the estimates of what is the size of Indian middle class, they have been varying widely. All kinds of estimates have come from the most dependable authorities, but the figures are vastly different. According to the Deutsche Bank study, the middle class in India is between 30 to 300 million numbers. That's a huge number in terms of variation, but they say 30 to 300. According to Credit Suisse, they say that the number is 24 million. The World Bank says it is 264 million. McKinsey and Company says it is 50 million. And all of them are based on the same number given by the NCAR. Let's keep that assumption aside, but the reality is that what is the size of the Indian middle class, what are their income and wealth potentials and actual realities are certainly a matter of huge debate. And that explains why a number of times when the MNCs come to India thinking that they are going to tap a huge middle class, they fail to do so. It proves to be elusive. On the other hand, if you come to a country like China, their middle class is to the tune of 300 million persons. In fact, between the year 2000 to 2015, China's middle class shot up. And what are the figures today? A mere 3% of Indians are in the middle class. A mere 3%. In China, the figure is 18% and the global average is 13%. So let's be clear. India already has a very low middle class income segment in the population, and even that, according to us, is receding. And if the kind of economic slowdown we are witnessing continues, there might be a number of persons on the fringes of the middle class who could go back into poverty. Why do we say that Indian middle class is under threat? Why is their income and wealth under threat? The reasons are there for all of us to see. India at the moment faces a record unemployment. Estimates say that it is at a 45-year high. If households don't have jobs, they are bound to not have income. They are bound to not have wealth. They are probably bound to survive on past savings, if any. They fall out of the middle class bracket. The second one is distress in the MSME sector, in the rural sector, in the informal sector. And that was caused because of demonetization and GST. At the time of demonetization, over 7 lakh informal MSME units are said to have closed down. They were never revived again. And those persons, of course, would have fallen out of the middle class bracket. So the stress in this sector is the other factor why middle class incomes are receding. Another related factor to employment is manufacturing jobs are not coming by. Despite decades of attempts, India has not been able to set up a vibrant manufacturing sector. We have not been able to do what China did. And with manufacturing jobs not coming by, India's middle class will continue to shrink. In fact, the CMI data that I just discussed says that jobs in India's manufacturing and agricultural sector have been falling. At the cost of repetition, the draconian impact of demonetization and the complicated GST has not withered out, and the sector remains in stress. Incomes have been falling. The receding jobs, as we discussed, is yet another one, and that is linked to the economic slowdown that we witnessed. India's economic growth has fallen to a 6-year low. It has not yet bottomed out. And the more the slowdown happens, the more will corporate incomes, individual incomes, household incomes recede. And that means the middle class will only suffer even further. This impact of the slowdown is also evident on corporate profits. Corporate profits have been receding, job creation has been slowing down, middle class opportunities have gone low. It is also popularly known that education in India, the standards are very poor. We do not generate what are called employable graduates. It is said that just about 10% of Indian graduates are employable. And if a person graduates and doesn't get a job, it is the middle class that suffers. And apart from education comes the sector related to participation of women in the economy. A mere 24% of Indian women are gainfully employed, and that also contributes to the receding fortunes of the Indian economy's middle class. The reality is, it is the growth in middle class that contributes to the development and progress of a nation. It is China's middle class which has made China a prosperous country today. It is because the American middle class started buying cars in huge numbers that America became a prosperous economy touching to the World War II. It is the middle class that generates demand. It is the middle class that supports manufacturing and businesses. And if the middle class is receding, that would explain why the size of the economy would also recede. Ironically and interestingly, if an economy grows, the middle class grows. In India, we see the reverse happening, and that is a dangerous trend for the economy. And that also raises a question mark. If the Indian economy and its middle class will continue to recede, How will India achieve the 5 trillion GDP target that Mr. Modi has set for 2025? The receding middle class, the receding income and wealth of the middle class is a matter of concern, not just for the citizens of the country, but the country itself. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.